Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar by ImageKit. I'm Rahul. I'm one of the co-founders here at ImageKit. And in today's webinar, I'll take you through some of the more recent and important updates from our ImageKit digital asset management product. Now, most of you might be using ImageKit for media processing, let's say for image optimization, image transformation, video streaming, etc. Digital asset management is a relatively newer product. It's been around for a couple of years, but compared to our media processing stack, it's a newer product. And given the customer adoption that we have had in the last year, we had a lot of feedback and a lot of things to improve in the DAM. And that is what we are going to cover in this particular webinar, that what are these major improvements that have happened in the ImageKit digital asset management product, right? The DAM actually helps you to improve the collaboration and sharing between marketing, content, and technology teams. It helps you share and collaborate assets using an interface which is like Google Drive, but at the same time, tech teams do get an interface where they can use or consume these assets via APIs itself, right? So the major updates that I first want to get started in this particular webinar are actually in the user experience in the browser itself, right? So this actually impacts the marketing and creative people who are using the digital asset management product. What I have on my screen is the media library part of our ImageKit dashboard. This is where you actually upload all your assets, organize them in folders, collaborate and share these assets with different team members. The first major improvement that has happened in this particular section is actually we have added this nifty preview bar in the right hand side. So now when you select an asset, instead of going into the detail view of the asset and then getting all of this information, now you get all of this information in this right hand side column itself, right? So you get information such as the dimensions, the format, when was it created, who was it created by, and even the tags and the metadata are available in this section itself. Now, we've also made navigation simple. While you can still, let's say, use your mouse to click on different assets and you can keep seeing the updated information here, you can also use your keyboard to now navigate across the DAM, right? So you can't see my keyboard, but let's say if I am using my arrow keys right now, I can move around the assets very easily. Very similar to what you're used to on your laptops, you can also press the command or the control key to select multiple assets in one go and carry out bulk operations on them. Or you can also use the shift key to actually just use your keyboard shift along with the arrow keys to select multiple assets. Now, when you select multiple assets, earlier we only allowed you to update the tags in bulk. Now we also allow you to edit the metadata in bulk, right? When you right click on any of these assets and select bulk edit custom metadata, this modal opens up, and first you need to select the field that you want to update. So let's say I want to update the product ID for all of them, and then I can set the value as whatever product ID I want to set. When I submit this, the metadata field will get updated for all of these assets in one go. So as you can see here, the product ID for this particular field has been updated over here. We've also made available now the asset ID, which is an important field that is used for all the API calls that you will make to access these assets. If you're from the technology team, you would need to find these assets using APIs. So you have this API file ID now available in this right-hand side column. The other major change that's been done is on the detail view itself. The asset now takes up a lot more real estate on the screen, so you can actually view all the finer details. The right-hand side bar, it remains the same. So you still see the summary that you saw in the previous section, the custom metadata, but you now also get comments in this bar itself. All the options for different, let's say, organization methods, editing, sharing, etc., now appear in the menu over here itself. The keyboard navigation still works. So let's say if I use my arrow keys, I can still navigate on this screen itself in the detail view between the different assets that are there on my system. Right. The next update that I wanted to cover in this webinar is actually the update to the image editor or the transformation URL builder that we have now added to the ImageKit DAM. This is not a UX update, it's a completely fresh feature that we have added from scratch. The feedback that we got from most of the customers that were actually using the DAM was that the marketing and creative teams, they were not able to create the ImageKit transformation URLs themselves. These are really difficult to create and require, let's say, a marketing person to know some, let's say, technical parameters, etc. So what we have done is that we have come up with this ImageKit editor. This is the new editor. We earlier only had the legacy browser only editor that you see here. It's still here, but it will soon be deprecated in favor of the new editor that you see over here. When you click on this editor, you can see that on the left hand side, there are multiple transformations that are now available. All of these transformations, they actually correspond to one of the URL based transformation parameters that you would have seen in the ImageKit's media processing product. So for example, if I have to resize this image to width 300 pixel, I can just add the width here and I can click apply. Now, when this is done, this is not just, let's say, manipulation happening using, let's say, canvas on the browser. It actually uses ImageKit's own media processing parameters, right? So if I click on open image in new tab, you can see that ImageKit's width parameter has been added to the URL. Now, this actually allows teams to be able to copy these transformed URLs so that they can then use it on websites, blogs, etc. Or they can simply download this file to use it on external platforms like Instagram, or they can save it back to the media library after doing these edits. Not only this, you can actually do multiple edits one after the other. So in the left hand column, I can actually add a new transformation. So for example, if I want to now rotate this image by 90 degrees, I can apply this. So the image is first getting resized, then it undergoes a rotation of 90 degrees. And I can also do this on multiple assets in one go, right? So if I select all of these three assets, the same transformation gets applied on all of them, and I have access to the URLs for each of these assets that I added to the editor. So the editor actually makes it really simple for you to create these ImageKit transformations from the media library itself and to save back these transformed images or to get their URLs so that you can use them on different, let's say, your blog or website and other different digital places where you would want to use these assets. We are making some improvements to this editor. The first improvement would be for video editing, which is where the same editor would be made available for video files as well. Currently, this works only for images. And we are also going to introduce the ability to save these edits and use them eventually for creative automation. So for example, if you're writing, let's say, some sort of text on the image, and that then you want to create thousands of different variations where that text changes based on the product or maybe based on the user or etc., you would be able to create such templates and then automate the banner creation from the ImageKit editor itself. That brings me to the next most important update that's happened in the ImageKit DAM, which is basically the path policies. Now, the reason that we came up with path policies, I'll first describe what's the problem, and then I'll describe what's the actual solution that we offer via path policies. So if you're dealing with a large number of assets in your DAM, or you're dealing with a large number of collaborators within your DAM, then you need to ensure some sort of sanity within the content that's coming inside your DAM. You either want to control the assets that are coming in based on, let's say, their asset type, their file size, their nomenclature, etc., or you want to ensure that assets that have already been added, they are actually safe and secure inside the DAM, that no one can actually make changes to these assets once you have started using them on a live website. So path policies, these are actually code-based rules and metadata settings that you can add in your DAM that will allow you to maintain the sanity of the DAM assets at scale inside your DAM system. So let's take a look at a few examples of what different, let's say, use cases you can solve with path policies, right? So the first one that I want to cover is upload rules. So when there are new assets that are coming into your DAM and you want to control what kind of assets that can come into the DAM, right? So I have this folder website banners, and let's say I want to add a limitation that website banners need to be in a specific format, let's say JPEG or PNG, And I know that these banners need to go live on my website, so I want them to be less than 1 MBs in size. I can actually use path policies, which are accessible from this option in the menu on the left, to then define a policy, as you can see here, using simple JavaScript based code. This code actually allows me to add checks, which is, let's say, a part of the upload API that ImageKit offers. In this case, the check that I'm adding, that the file that is incoming should have the MIME type, or let's say the content type in simpler language, as JPEG or PNG, and that the size of the file should be less than 1 MB, right? So this has been expressed in bytes. So we are basically checking both the conditions, that it's JPEG and PNG and less than 1 MB. We enable this function at the time of upload, and we have applied this to the folder website banners. Now let's see how this policy actually works in action. If I go to the website banner section, and we'll try to upload them to this folder. As you can see, the test SVG file failed, and so did the JPEG file, which was larger than the threshold that we have set. The only successful upload that happens is of a JPEG file that was under the threshold that we have set, right? So now you can imagine, if you have different folders in your media library, let's say there's a folder where you're going to be ingesting logos, or let's say there are certain folders where you want to ingest product images, you can set these checks based on, let's say, format, that you only want SVG logos to be there, or you can set conditions based on the resolution, that any product image that is coming in, it should be larger than a specific resolution because you want high quality images to go out on your website. So by using these upload policies, you can actually control the resolution, or let's say the size, the format, or any other check that you can express using JavaScript for any asset that is getting ingested in your media library. Now, once the assets are already inside my media library, the next thing that we want to do is to add some sort of controls over the actions that can be done after the upload has happened, right? Which is where the validation rules come in. So to demonstrate this, I have this particular folder, let's say the e-commerce folder. Let's assume that these images are being used on my production website right now. Because they are being used on my production website, I do not want anyone to be able to delete them. I do not want anyone to be able to rename these files, or to be able to move them from this particular folder or change the name of this folder, because doing any of these operations would change the CDN URL of this file and the link would break, right? So to accomplish this, again, if I go back to path policies, I already have a policy prepared called apparel assets. This has been applied to the e-commerce folder. What we do in this case, the upload function is a blank over here. So we have not enabled the upload function, but we have just enabled the validate function, which is what runs on every operation after the upload. So over here, we are trying to check if the operation is of delete file, or rename folder. We can extend this list and also add, let's say, move file to this list. If any of these operations are being done, then I want to throw an error that this operation cannot be done because these files are protected and cannot be modified. We have applied this to the e-commerce folder. So for example, if I now go back to that same folder and I try deleting this asset, this actually gives me an error, right? Similarly, if I now try to rename some other file, let's say I try to rename it 123, this again gives me an error that any modification to this asset is not allowed, right? So by using the validation rules in the path policy, we're able to restrict the kind of operations that can be done for assets that are there inside your DAM. The last major use case of path policies is to be able to set metadata rules. Now, we must understand this with an example. Within the DAM, there could be different kinds of assets that you have inside your DAM. So for example, in our DAM, we have these e-commerce images. So let's say for e-commerce images, the metadata fields that I want to organize my files are product ID. Let's say I want the category of this particular product. I want to know the brand of this particular product that's been uploaded. But at the same time, in the same DAM, I have the website banners as well. Now, website banners may not have any product ID associated with them. They are not associated with a single brand or a single category. These are just banners that are going to go out, let's say, on social media or maybe on your website. Now, for these different kinds of assets, the requirement of, let's say, metadata fields to organize them are also different. For my product images, I want a different set of metadata fields, whereas for my website banner images, I want a different set of metadata fields. Now, earlier, ImageKit had this single list of custom metadata fields that were then applied to all the assets that were there in the media library. So I have these four fields. Prior to, let's say, path policy feature, all of these four fields would appear against all the assets that are there in the DAM. But now with the path policy feature, the additional functionality that is now available to us apart from the validate and upload functions is that we can also define the metadata fields which are applicable to that particular policy. So for example, this policy is for my e-commerce assets and it's applied on the e-commerce folder. So over here we are saying that we only need the product ID, the apparel band and the apparel category metadata fields. We don't want the fourth field. And we are also saying that the product ID and the brand are required fields. We can leave out the apparel category when a file is being uploaded, but the first two should be there mandatorily. For website banners, we did something different, right? So for website banners, we are saying that none of the other three fields are needed. We just want the sale name, right? And even the sale name is not a required field because there could be some banners that are not associated with any sale that's happening on the website. So now if I go back to my e-commerce folder, I can see that the metadata fields that I now get for this particular asset, I just get the three fields that we added in the policy. If I go to my website banners folder, I get only the one field that we associated with the website banner category. Whereas if I check assets which are not in any of these folders, I'll get all the four fields that are added in the media library. So in this way, you can actually control which metadata fields get associated with different kinds of content that are there in your digital asset management system that allows you to organize these assets better. There are a few more use cases that you can actually accomplish using path policies. Now, one of them is that in a large organization, there could be certain assets that you do not want to be made public at any point of time. These assets are only meant for internal collaboration, and then the use for these assets should remain limited within your DAM. You do not want their CDN URLs to ever be published, right? ImageKit allows you to do that with a feature called draft assets. Now, you can actually use path policies to ensure that all assets remain in the draft state and they cannot be moved out of draft state in that folder, right? So we are making a combination of the upload function and the validate function here. In the upload function, we are saying that the file always needs to have is published equal to false, which is what puts it into the draft state. And in the validate function, we are saying that if we are trying to update the file, and if we are trying to change the is published file status, then we are saying that the files cannot be published. Now, all of these fields, these are actually documented in the path policy documentation. We have given the function reference and the different values that would be available. And these are also available in the API reference for different APIs that are there inside the ImageKit DAM. So the upload file API would give you more information about the upload function, whereas the other asset management APIs would give you details about the other operations that are possible via the path policies that we set. By applying this path policy, we would be able to ensure that our assets, they were always uploaded in the draft state and they only remain in the draft state and update is not possible on them. The next common use case would be, since policies are nothing but just JavaScript functions, you can imagine that, let's say, if a file name contains certain information about the product, let's say you follow nomenclature like this, product underscore SKU123 underscore image1.jpg. And within this SKU123 is your product ID. You can actually use simple JavaScript to extract this product ID and let's say set this as the product ID metadata field. That's just simple code that you need to write over there. You can also restrict operations to specific users, right? Currently, we saw that we are restricting an entire operation, but in this case, you also see that the user is also available as an input to this validate function. We can also say that the update file function, let's say only a manager in the team, and you can refer to them by their email, should be allowed to change the publication status, whereas everyone else should not be able to change the publication status. So it is not just the entire operation that you can block, but you can also grant individual users access to perform certain operations and block certain other operations for them. I'll quickly move on to the next feature that we do have, which is again a major feature that we added, which is called AI tasks. Now, you would be familiar that ImageKit, apart from the metadata fields that we saw right now in our demonstration, ImageKit also gives you the ability to add tags to files, right? So for example, you have this option of adding auto tags or adding manual tags to each file. As of now, what we offered was we offered integration with services from Google and AWS that would automatically add tags to a particular file. Now, the challenge with this auto tagging was that one, it is obviously difficult to get working at scale, right? Uh, the AI was either very generic. So, for example, in this particular case, the tags that have been added are very generic, like car, SUV, vehicle. These do not have any business specific information that could be useful for searching of files, right, or for organizing the files. So, either the AI tags are generic, or if you were to use manual tagging to add something very specific, let's say that would make sense for your business, it would be very difficult if you do that for hundreds of thousands of assets in your DAM. So the problem with the generic AI or manual tagging earlier was that it was either very generic or it was difficult to make it work at scale. Now, each business has its own unique organization requirements. So, for example, let's say there are two companies that sell cars and both of them have the same image. One might want to, let's say, classify this image on the basis of the color of the car. Someone else might want to classify this image on the basis of whether this is the exterior or the interior of a car, whether it's a sports car, etc. Right? So each business wants to extract a different kind of information from the image. So there was always a need that our customers expressed that they should be able to identify the information that their business needs to make the media library more useful. And it is not just the information that you want to extract, but you also want the AI to be able to retain the vocabulary that your team uses. So, for example, if both of these cars are, let's say, sports utility vehicles, a company might refer to them as SUV, a company might refer to them as SUV in lowercase, someone might call it sports utility vehicle, right? The full name. Or let's say if there is an e-commerce product image on a solid white background, a company might call it plain background, someone else might call it solid background, right? So there is a different vocabulary that every team uses to define the same set of things or the same set of attributes, and everyone wants the AI to be able to understand their language, right? So that when their team goes back to find these files, they're able to locate these files using terminology that they are already familiar with. So the AI task feature, it actually uses the new age LLMs that are now available to everyone to be able to specify these business specific questions in natural language and to be automatically be able to add tags or to be able to set metadata fields in your own vocabulary. So this is a unique feature that is available only, let's say, in ImageKit DAM and possibly maybe a few other DAMs globally. So we are one of the leaders in introducing this feature inside the DAM. And I will quickly show you a demonstration of how this works. We'll take a look at two examples. Let's start with cars. And what I have done is I have already prepared a set of questions that I would want to ask using AI to extract information. Now, in your media library, if you head to the settings section of media library, you have an option to use saved extensions. I've already created two saved extensions, one for cars and one for e-commerce. I'm walking you through the configuration for the cars related AI task. Now, as of now, this configuration is a bit complex, right? If you're coming from a marketing or a creative background, this would look complex. We have covered a lot of examples, like we have given sample configurations for different industries as well in our documentation. And we would be happy to help you configure these if you find this very technical at the end of the webinar. But let's first take a look at how this configuration works and what this is doing, right? So within an AI task, we can ask multiple questions, right? These questions is what the AI LLM would try to answer by looking at your image, right? So the first question that we are asking the AI is, what is the body style of the vehicle in this image? And we are not just letting it guess the body type on its own, we are also giving it a vocabulary that we only want you to pick from this vocabulary, and identify the body style of the vehicle. And once you have identified it, we want you to add tags, and we only want you to add one tag for this particular question, right? So we have specified the instruction, we have given it a vocabulary to follow, we have given it the action that it should add tags, and we have also restricted that it should add only one tag. Similarly, in the next question, we again are adding tags, but this time we are asking that what part of the car is shown in the image. Is it the exterior view? Is it the front view? Is it the dashboard, infotainment, engine, wheels, etc. Right? So what part of the car is visible in that image? Now, there could be shots where multiple things are visible. So we are allowing the AI to select three from this particular list and add these three as tags. If the AI is able to identify the brand of the car, it will automatically add that as a tag. Then a very simple question, that what's the primary color of the vehicle's exterior, and then it adds the color that's from this particular list. Now again, different companies could have different ways in which they describe their color. So specifying the vocabulary here would be really useful to maintain the vocabulary that your team uses. And the last two questions that we are using is that image taken in an indoor setting, like a showroom or a garage, or is it on an outdoor setting? We have again given it some options, and we will let LLM add one tag from this particular vocabulary. We are checking if there are any people present in the particular image, either they are inside the vehicle, if it's a driver, passengers, or is it someone standing outside the car, and if there are any specific features that the AI can identify in this car, right? So in all of these, we are just letting the AI set tags. Now, I have configured this exact extension in the media library as well. And once you have configured this in the media library, you will get an option to apply this extension when you select an asset. So I can right click on an asset and either apply extension from here, or I can select all the assets in one go, right click on any one of them and click on apply saved extensions. It would allow me to select which extension I want to apply. I'll select cars and I'll apply the extension. Now, the AI actually uses all the instructions that we gave along with each of these images to add tags that we asked it to. So for example, in this case, the tags that you see over here, these were the ones that we added earlier using the Google and AWS services, which are generic. But now you can see that AI was able to add, I'll just open the detail view. The AI was able to add tags such as alloy wheels, that it's an exterior image, there are no people, it's an outdoor nature off-roading shot, rear view, roof rails are visible, the side profile is visible, and it's a silver SUV. Now, this is very specific to the business. It gives you the exact information that you were looking for instead of some generic tags that were earlier available, right? Let's look at some of the other options, right? So it says that it's black in color, it's the dashboard or the digital instrument cluster, the infotainment screen, it's an outdoor city road that's there, the steering wheel is visible, it identifies it as SUV. We can modify the instructions a bit as well and say that, okay, if it's an interior shot, then don't try to guess the car type as well, right? So we can change that later on as well. Let's look at a different car. So for example, this is a red sports car. Again, it's an outdoor nature shoot. Alloy wheels are visible, exterior shot, side profile, no people, right? So by using AI, we are actually able to add the exact information that we want on these images. And if I now click on any of these, let's say tags, for example, I want to find files which have a side profile added. If I click on side profile, I get the three cars that have the side profile tag available for them. So these tags not just, let's say, help you organize the files, you can use this information to also search for files as well, which is what we'll cover a little later in this webinar. Now, let's do the same thing for our e-commerce images as well, right? For e-commerce, we are doing a bit of a different thing over here. We are selecting the metadata field, right? Instead of adding tags like we did for cars, We will set the metadata field apparel category. The apparel category metadata field actually has 5 values. So if I show you the values here, the values are dress, shirt, t-shirt, lounge pant, and jeans. I'll just cross this out. So these 5 values have been given to the AI as well, that it can only pick from these 5 values that we have for this field, and only one of them is valid. We are asking it to pick the apparel category of the product that's shown in the image. We are asking the AI to identify if it's a male or a female model in the image, or if it's both female and male that are appearing in the image. We are asking it to identify the number of people visible in the image. Is it just one, two, three, or more, or no people as well? We are asking the AI to identify the primary color of the cloth that is shown in the image, right? So, and we are giving it the colors that it should pick from. You can see that we are giving it green as well as olive green, which are very close otherwise, but we're giving it both the options to pick from. And the last one that we are using is that, is this photo clicked inside a studio or is it clicked outdoors? We are also giving it an option that if it is not sure, it can pick the not sure tag from the vocabulary. Now, again, this has been configured as a saved extension. I will select all these files and I will add the saved extension for e-commerce. Now, when I do this, let's look at this particular file. It says that it's a shirt, and I'll just open this view. It adds other tags such as no people, olive green, and this is shot in a studio. It's not shot outside, which is right as well. If I look at some of the other images, it again, no people, olive green studio. It says that these are lounge pants. For this image, it says it's a dress. In this case, it says it's a black dress, a female is visible, one person is visible, and it's still a studio shot. So again, using AI, we are able to extract very specific answers that would help us organize and search for these assets later on. Now, there is one limitation that is there in AI in this case, is that we are not giving it any context or any business specific context at this stage, right? All the questions that we asked at this stage, these were, let's say, something that AI would be able to answer on its own without your business adding any specific context to it. For example, you might have a specific product name for a product inside your company, right? You might call it, let's say, ABC, and the AI does not know that that is the name given to that product internally in your organization. So that brings us to the next part, that there is a way in which we can provide some context to this particular question, which can be passed on to the LLMs to further improve the answers they're adding. To give you an example, if we look at the first item that's there, the AI actually says that these are lounge pants, whereas we as humans know that these are jeans. Actually, these are not lounge pants, and jeans was an option to pick from here. This is where the context part comes in. So what I've done, these were all images from Uniqlo's website. So I have picked up URLs from Uniqlo's website. So for example, I have picked up this URL, which actually shows a jeans. Now, if you notice, these are not the same pair of jeans, right? It's a different color, a different shot, but we have just picked up one URL and we are saying that this is a jeans, and we have picked up one for a lounge pant and we are saying that this is a lounge pant. Now, what we'll do is that we'll change the first question that we had, which did not have any context added to this instruction. We will replace the saved extension and we will add this context to the extension, right? So we can go ahead and edit the extension, and I will change the first question that's available over here. Now, when I update this and I come back to my e-commerce folder, let me unset this metadata field first. And now let's try reapplying the saved extension to this file. Now you would notice that the first time that we applied the saved extension, it worked really quickly because the AI actually did not have to evaluate any other context. This time it took a little longer to analyze the image inputs that were given to it, but you can see that it was now able to pick the category correctly for this particular file. So if there is any business specific information that you want to provide to these AI tasks, or if you want to have more control and more accuracy for these results, in most cases, you might be better off by providing some custom context to the LLMs These could be image URLs along with the information that we are trying to pass to the LLM with that image URL. Now, at this stage, I was actually going to every individual image or folder and selecting assets and then trying to apply extensions. Now, when there are a lot of team members uploading a lot of assets to your DAM system, you want to have some sort of automation to be there. What we can do in this case is that if I head to the settings section, we can obviously set one of these extensions as a default for the entire media library, right? So anything that gets added to the media library will have this extension enabled. An individual user can also select the extension when they are trying to upload a new file. So for example, if I select this file, I do get an option to select the saved extension at the time of upload as well. Or an even better way is that using the path policies, we can actually apply the extension at the time of upload and make it mandatory on specific folders, right? So instead of applying an extension to the entire digital asset management system, we can pick specific folders that would have a specific extension being applied to them. So for example, on the e-commerce folder, I want to apply a specific extension. So what I can do is if I go to my settings, I can copy the extension ID from my saved extension. And in my path policy, under the upload function, I can say that all the file uploads need to have this saved extension ID applied to them. Now, this path policy would actually, let's say if we enable this only for the e-commerce folder, that would mean that anything new that gets added to the e-commerce folder would automatically have the right tags and metadata that this particular saved extension or this particular AI task adds for that image. Similarly, we can create one for the cars folder and we can use the other extension ID that we have created. And this would sort of automate AI tags and AI tasks across all the assets in your DAM. The other key feature that we have added to the media library are the AI descriptions. Now, a lot of customers did give us this feedback that for the assets that are there inside the digital asset management system, they do want to have something of an equivalent to the alt text that you have on your website, all the alternate text. It not only helps improve the SEO, but it's also a mandatory requirement for accessibility compliance in different geographies. So to enable that, we now have an option called the description field that would appear against all the assets. In this case, I've already generated the description field, but let's look at something else. So for example, let's look at this particular image where the description field is still empty. When you click on edit, you will get an option for this AI generation. If I click on this, AI would actually analyze the content of this image and it will add the alt text or the description for this file. A smiling young woman with long dark hair strands, arms are crossed, wearing a red hoodie against a blue background. So this very accurately describes the content of the image that is there in this case. This description field is then accessible via APIs, or if you were to insert this image into, let's say, your own CMS using the embedded plugins that we have, this description would be available. So it can be used as your on-page SEO alt text or help you fulfill the accessibility requirements that your business has. Now, this AI description is also useful for the search part as well, right? And which is what I'll cover, the new search experience that we added in the ImageKit DAM. The search bar appears at the top like it used to earlier, but now the autocompleter works a bit better than what it used to earlier. So for example, if I now type the name of the file, anything that matches that name starts appearing over here along with, let's say, in which folder does it appear. If I keep typing, it will keep, let's say, filtering out the files that actually match these different keywords that I'm typing. At the same time, if I, let's say, have a tag that I want to search for, again, I can just type the name of the tag. For example, if I type clothing or if I type SUV, it will give me everything that has the tag SUV or the name SUV added to it, right? So both tags and name search, they actually work in the autocompleter. I just need to press enter at this stage and I will get all the results, whether it's the name or the tags that match the SUV. Now, in a lot of cases, you actually might not remember the file name or the tags that were added. In which case, we have a different search mode that's available, which is called the AI visual search mode, right? Which is what we are going to cover next. In the AI visual search mode, for example, if I want to search for flowers, there are no files that are matching the name flowers or have been tagged as flowers, but I can use this option, search for images related to flowers. Now, what the AI visual search does is that it analyzes the content of the image. So it analyzes the visual content of the image, right? So the file name does not contain flowers. There is no information about that in the tags, etc. But it looks at the image visually, and if it does have flowers, then it adds these files in the search results. Similarly, if I have to add, let's say if I want to search for silver car, we do have tags, let's say for different cars, but we don't have something that matches silver car, but we can search for images related to silver car, and it gives us a few different options. It does match car as well as silver car in these cases. So you get a few different options that the AI is able to match. If I search similarly for car interior, again, there are no files that actually match car interior, but I can search for related files, which is where you see the AI powered icon over here. Car interior then matches with this file 3.jpg, which is showing the interior of the car. So the AI visual search is actually really helpful if you just remember what is it that you're looking for, but you actually don't remember the tags or the name of the file, then you can initiate this AI powered search. It not only works with a text input, but it also works if you start off with an image as an input, which is really helpful if you want to find similar images in your DAM. So for example, if I'm starting off with this image and I want to see what other files in my DAM are very similar to this particular image, I can click on find similar, and the AI would again analyze the content of different files. So you can see that these first four results that we see, the bottles in them are all very similar. So this AI visual search, which starts off by searching, from a single image, it tries to map all the other images and find the ones which are the closest to this particular file that you started off with. You see a few other results as well, because the AI is actually trying to rank it on the basis of similarity. In some cases, it would be able to match, let's say, a color. In some cases, it would be able to match a background. But you can be assured that the first few files that would be there would be the ones that resemble the input image as close as possible. Apart from the visual AI search, the advanced search filters are also an option in which you can trigger a search. So, for example, if I want to search for, let's say, roses, now there are no files that are named roses, but it's possible for me to, let's say, look for file description that contains roses, right? And I will remove this. So you can see that there are a few assets that contain the description roses, but their name is not roses. So what I can do, I can go to a more advanced query builder mode, which is what we have here. And I can say that I want to find files which has description either as roses, or I want to find file which have the name as roses, right? So this becomes a more comprehensive search for finding anything that has roses in the name or description. When I trigger this search, I'm able to get to all the files. In this case, this file contains roses in the description field. But had there been any other file with, let's say, roses in the name, both of these would then pop up. Now, when you have such complex queries, you don't want to be typing them out again and again when there are multiple filters being combined to get you to that right result. So now ImageKit actually allows you to save this search. When you click on save, you would be asked to enter the search name and who should it be visible to. Is it only for you that you want to have this search available, or should it be available to everyone who is there in your DAM as a user? In this particular webinar, I've already created a saved search, which is, let's say, the rose search. If I click on it, it takes me directly to the search result page, which makes it really easy that if your team has certain specific workflows, which they find themselves going back to very often, and performing these searches very often, they can actually just save these searches so that they can go back to that view really quickly. That brings us to the end of the features that we wanted to cover. Uh, if you have any questions or if you want a detailed demo for all the features that we discussed, or if you want to see how these would work, let's say for your business requirements, you can reach out to your customer success manager or email us at support@imagekit.io. At this stage, you would also get after the webinar a survey that would actually help us improve this webinar and how we can do better in the future. So please do answer that survey. That actually helps us improve the content and what is it that we should bring to you in the next webinar. But thank you so much for joining in for this webinar. And your respective customer success managers would be in touch with you if you do want to explore more about these features. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.